Greetings, everyone. This is Payman, your host of the Leaders Web podcast. Today, I have a wonderful guest for you, a real life person. Well, not a real, everybody I talk to a real life, but someone I actually met in person here in beautiful Kuala Lumpur. We met, 3 weeks ago at an event about AI. We had a beautiful conversation. We met for dinner 2 weeks ago and get to know you even better. And I knew from the get-go that I need to bring you on the podcast because you have a massive heart. You're truly with art, and you have not just a powerful story and inspiring, because we all have, but also you have a goosebump-inducing story, and that's what we're gonna unpack in here. A little bit about her. Her name is Raewyn. She's from New Zealand, and at one point in life, after doing what the society, the script wanted out of her to go through life, she saw that she wanted more out of life, and she wanted to went on to explore the world, and she ended up in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, of all places, as a teacher, first of all, 27 years ago. And long story short, she's been here ever since. She's built a thriving business, a powerful and inspiring life. And she's here to inspire others through her. She's running international school in the heart of Kuala Lumpur in KLCC, Kuala Lumpur City Center. And there's a lot we can cover. My little finger, my trusted advisor, is telling me that this might be a 2 or 3 part series because there's so much we can unpack. But let's start first of all, without any further ado. Raewyn, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you very much, Payman. Very nice to meet you. Thank you.
Pleasure on mine. So, for people who don't know you, over and beyond what I just skimmed through it, tell us, who's Raewyn as a person, as a human being, as a woman?
I think I would say that I am a storyteller. Because at the end of the day, when we communicate with people, really, we're communicating our story or our perception of that story. So our lives are just one long succession of stories, really.
Absolutely.
Some are good storytellers, some aren't. But when I was in New Zealand, a group of friends, that's what I was identified as the raconteur.
I like that.
The raconteur has
French word. I like that,
Yeah. So I would say fundamentally that's what I am. Actually, so everybody's a storyteller, but
absolutely, we all have a story. We all have a voice, and our story matters. Our voice matters, and become, one of my biggest realization as a result of my spiritual awakening 2-3 years ago is that I knew it, but I understood that life is a school. We are here to learn lessons and grow as a person. But that's only 10% of the reason we're here. The other 90% is take those beautiful gifts, that story, those lessons, those wisdom, and share them with the world to whatever means makes most sense for you. For me, it's through speaking and my books. Someone else, it might be through singing, music, dancing, painting, whatever way it is. And then share that so we can all not only benefit, but we can all, elevate everybody as a result of that. So this is why we are here, and we have a story. So let's try to unpack your story. And to start, first of all, I'd like to start with a series of rapid fire questions to further get to know you as a person. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. As a person, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? When I see people grow and learn and move in a positive direction, I think that makes me feel happy. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What makes you smile?
Another smile. I see someone smile at me, it makes me smile. Indeed. So, yeah.
Now let's take the happiness factor a couple of notches higher. What makes your heart sing? What brings your soul on fire?
I would say, I'd say conquering something, conquering a challenge. I could say all the other things before, like, seeing people shift and grow and move forward, and that makes me feel good. Smiles and, happiness around me makes me feel good. But I think at the end of the day, something that's kind of happened to me, particularly in the last few years, is an appreciation of overcoming a challenge, because often it takes us to places we never thought we could go in ourselves, and that's exhilarating. And that's, yeah, I mean, if I had to say anything, it's that to overcome a challenge, and not only overcome it, but it usually takes me to an even better place I was before. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree, because through challenge, that's when we grow. That's when we challenges of, and it's funny because in school, they give you the lesson first, then they give you a test, and life is the other way around. You're tested first, then you learn the lesson,
Yeah,
Why,
yeah.
why can't we make the education system the other way around,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think, as I was, I think, telling you just before, I was somebody who, I wouldn't say I did all the right things. I wouldn't say that. I was a little bit of a rebel, but I would say that I had a concept of life which was given to me by my parents, which was, I very much appreciate, which was, try and do the right thing, follow the right course of action, and that will get you to where, to have a satisfying life. So I did that to a certain extent, but I found I was living a bit of a half-life. And it really wasn't until I actually decided to open my mind and say to myself, I'm going to try this. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how long it will take me, but I don't have a lot of commitments back home, as I'm talking about leaving New Zealand. I don't have a lot of responsibilities that are tying me down. I can't use that as an excuse. I actually have an opportunity here. So, yeah, so I would say, really when I left New Zealand was when I was living my full life. Because every single day things were new, culture was different, the way things are, the way systems work was just different to how I grew up. So I would say I spent the last 30 years, let's say 27 years, in a kind of a permanent state of recalibrating. Who am I? Why am I here? To the point where to go back to New Zealand now is very difficult for me, because it would be just going backwards, it feels. I don't know what the future holds. I have my plans, and I'm doing everything I can to put everything into action to try and make these plans come true, come to something. So it's not like I'm just wandering around. I do actually have plans, but I'm very open that this plan may shift and change and develop. So yeah, that's how I see life, really. Yeah.
We'll dive into that later on in this conversation, but so we talked about what makes you happy, what brings you alive. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
People who don't listen.
I
think there's nothing more frustrating than being around someone who is just not listening.
Absolutely, I'm with you on that. What scares you?
What scares me?
Other than spiders.
Spiders, no, actually, I'm okay with spiders. It's caterpillars, then worms that give me the willies. What scares me? I don't know if I can answer that. I think in particular, I'm less afraid than I've ever been now than I used to be. I guess I might have said I was afraid of things that I didn't understand. But then you just get to know and understand what that means, and then it's, you get you're over it. I'm not afraid of trying new things, because you know, the older I get, the more I want that.
Absolutely.
I often see myself as someone who's kind of done the opposite to what a lot of people have done. In my first 30 years, I basically retired, meaning
Wow.
I did all the things I wanted to do that people would do in their retirement, like travel the world, you know, write books, you know, do all the things that you're supposed to do when you've got the time and you have no responsibilities anymore and so on. I did all that until pretty much until let's say until I was 40. When I was 40 was really, I would say, seriously, that's when I really started working. And now I see the second half of my life from 40 to 80 as this is my work life. I've already done all the retirement. I'm not interested in retirement, done all that. Now I'm into working and building responsibilities.
Building a legacy. Yes.
Well, yeah, why I have operated that way, I don't know, but that's how I see it. I've done the extreme opposite to what a lot of people, you know, suggest. They say, don't you want to slow down and settle down and enjoy your retirement? I said, no, what would I do with that? I've already done all that, already traveled the world, already done all this, done all that. I'm not that interested. I actually have come to really love the creativity in work.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So that's how I perceive my. I mean, I'm privileged in the sense that I've created something. I've created this school, and so it is a bit like, it's a piece of art, if you like, and I work on it every day, and it keeps morphing and developing and becoming something more than it was yesterday. So that's what I enjoy doing. So if I was an employee, I think things would be very different. But as an owner and operator of a business that is doing well, and you know, having to keep up with times and introducing new ideas, I find that very exhilarating, actually. Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say is your number one personal superpower?
My personal superpower is my number one superpower would be my sense of humor, I think.
Yes.
Because if you can't laugh at yourself, then you know, life's pretty miserable, you know.
Totally.
And finding humor in others, you know, finding the humor in others, and that always helps to nurture really good relationships, you know.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it's all about relationships.
Yep, absolutely. That's it. That's what you know, the word company, you know, if you own a company, I think to myself, why did they call it company? So I'm assuming it's because it's to do with bringing people together and having company, you know. There's got to be something in that.
Yeah.
Because you take the people out of the business, and what have you got? Nothing. You know, a couple of rooms and a desk.
It's a life. People coming together, focusing on their strength, their zone of genius, and co-creating magic together, having impact, positive impact.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful. You love traveling, right?
I do.
All right.
I say that hesitantly because I never call it traveling, really. I've been to many places around the world in my retired years of 20 to 40.
Early years, yes. Okay. In your formative years.
Yeah. Now I enjoy. I have three reasons to travel. One is to see my family and friends. One is obviously for business, which also has that has some building relationships as well. And then the third one is kind of just like for an adventure. but I tend to do less of the adventurous ones now because they take a lot of time and energy, and I did actually do a lot of that before. But one of the reasons why I like traveling, but one of the reasons why I am less interested in it now is because I think I might have mentioned my husband went to Canada back in 2014 because he's Canadian, because he had some health problems. And so he had to be there for 4 years, and I was in Malaysia. So I commuted to Toronto like 4 times
Quite
a
a
year.
commute there. Quite a commute there.
I think that killed any kind of, air travel, dreams I ever had, because by the end of that, it's like, I don't want to get on a plane again, I mean, fortunately, he came back. He eventually came back here. And yeah, I mean, I've been to some very interesting places, and I've, yeah, but I live in a foreign land, so it's not like I have many cultures already here that I enjoy spending time with, getting to know more of.
Indeed. Yeah. We can do an entire show on traveling when we do that in a future episode. But now I'd like to take you down a different type of travels, down memory lane. Go back to when you were growing up. When we were kids, people around us, family, relatives, teachers, neighbors always ask us, so Raewyn, what do you want to become when you grow up? When you grow old? What was the answer to that question as a little girl? Do you remember?
When I was a child, I always liked being in plays, as a kid, being in the school play. And then I did actually, when I grew up, I did actually go to drama school in New Zealand, and I did train actually as an actor and as a writer. Yeah. Wow. But when I got to about sort of halfway in the middle, when I was about 18, I had to think about what do I want to do, because my family were not that interested in me pursuing an artistic future. So they said, there's no money in that, I mean, anyway. So I had a brother who was a teacher, and he was at Teachers College at that time, and he used to come home, and I used to really enjoy looking at what he was doing and thinking, that looks really fun, I think I could really get into that. And so that's really what I became. And I would say even to this day, that's in my heart. I think I was born to be a teacher. I think teaching's a calling, it's not something anybody can do, but if it's for you, it's the greatest pleasure of all. So I became a teacher, and then I went to drama school after that. So and then I ended up coming back and doing teaching as well. So, and that's ended up being kind of my life in the long run, actually. Beautiful. Yeah.
Do you remember growing up, what was your favorite subject in school?
Art. I loved art. Yeah. And I was a bit artistic. Yeah, no, that was definitely my favorite subject, but there's no future in art. Sure. I didn't want to be a house painter.
What was your least favorite subject?
My least favorite subject, the subject I did the worst in was accounting. And I can't really understand why that was. I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me. And the teacher used to get very frustrated because actually maths was a subject I enjoyed. But accounting was not. I just couldn't get this kind of double entry thing sorted. Did
you find it boring? For example, for me, accounting put me to sleep, and I had to literally take it 2 times in college to pass it, because I was just, I just couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, I think it was. I just couldn't quite make sense. Why are we putting 2 things here?
Yeah.
Why do we have to put in the left and the right? I just couldn't. It just didn't make sense. But anyway, it turns out that was probably one of the subjects I should have actually learned more than anything having in business.
For business, yes.
I know a lot more about it now. Yeah. So that was my least favorite subject. Yeah.
Imagine that we were in the same class in grade 10, 11. What kind of student were you? What kind of teenage girl were you? Were you the shy one, the nerd one? Were you the chatterbox? Were you the life of the class? What type of teenage girl were you?
I was a chatterbox, and I was somebody who I think people thought I was the life of the class, but really I wasn't. I think deep down, I was actually a bit of an introvert. I had my kind of close set of sort of 3 or 4 friends, and kind of stuck with them. Even to this day, people think. I had a situation a while ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, where I went on a trip to London with a group of people from the school where I was to do a course. And one guy from the school said, "Oh, great, Raewyn's going on the trip. Well, that's going to be party." I sort of looked at him and I thought, where did you get that idea from? And then we get to London, and I just do my usual thing, do the course and enjoy the surroundings and so on. And when I came back, I asked him, because he's Malaysian, you see, and he'd never been to London before. And I said to him when I came back, I said, so what was it that surprised you about this trip that we just went on? Thinking he would talk about London and, the London Bridge and all that sort of thing. And he said, well, the thing that surprised me the most is that you're actually not much of a party animal. And, I thought, yeah, I don't know, why did they get that idea? I was like that. I don't know.
Wow.
But yeah. So I'm laid back. I'm a laid back person, but I can be in charge when I need to be in charge, basically.
Yeah. Back in high school and college, were you popular with the boys?
Was I popular with the boys? I wanted to be popular with the boys. Not as popular as I wanted to be, as I did my best. Yeah. Well, the thing was, is I had a neighbor. She was my best friend. She was around about my age. She's a little bit older than me. And she was someone who was extremely popular with the boys. So I was the sidekick, I was the one that got the cast-offs, Okay. So I was okay with that. But that took me a while to understand how relationships go, actually. I had to learn that men and women are not the same. I thought they were. I thought, well, I said this, so he must think that. No. He has a completely different way of assimilating that information than you do. Indeed. So that took me a long time. That probably took me maybe 10 years before I understood that. And once I understood that, I thought, oh, so that's how you get a boyfriend.
How was it?
What's that?
How was it? What way did you find that was the way to get a boyfriend?
Okay, so I realized that, well, first of all, fundamentally, men and women are not the same. So I thought that a good friendship with, like minds, similar interest in the world, interest in different topics and so on, would lead to relationships.
Logically speaking, yes.
Yeah, but that only led to a really good friendship.
There's not much logic in relationship, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I had to learn that don't put all your cards on the table at once.
Yes.
Be a good listener, and look for the chemistry, and let it happen, and once I kind of realized that, all kinds of people started, all kinds of men sort of appeared in my life. People that I never thought I would have necessarily been interested in suddenly became interesting. So trying to find something that's interesting in that person. Forget about yourself, you got enough time for yourself. Get to know this other person, get to know what is it that they're into. Not that you have to change your personality, because clearly if they're really into things you're not into, then nothing's going to happen there. But be interested in that person. Don't worry about yourself. Just make sure you're okay with yourself first, though. That's, if you're not okay with yourself, you're going to make a mess of it. That's my theory.
Isn't that also a crash course on how life works? Be generally interested in the other person and not just about you.
Yeah. And how many times I would do that, and the man would say to me, like, I wouldn't even share anything about myself whatsoever, but not much. But I would.
So you enjoyed playing the mystery girl?
I don't know if I was being a mystery, but I would latch onto something that I found interesting in them, and I would sort of go for it with that, and ask them about that and learn. I want to learn about that. That's very interesting. And then finally, at the end, they'd say, "You know what? You're a really interesting person." And I'd say, "How? You don't know anything about me."
You unlock one of the real keys to life. Have the other person talk about themselves, or talk about something they're truly genuinely interested in, and they will never shut up.
Well, that's the other thing, is you got to learn when then that's enough now, because I have had some situations where it's like, oh, I've really opened up a can of worms here. This is got to end now. Okay, because if the person, it's a very interesting thing, that exactly what we're talking about now is when you've got two people and one is showing an interest in the other person has to be smart enough to know there's a certain point where you have to turn around, you have to ask them, so what about you? But if they never do that, that's a very clear signal that, this person is so far inside themselves, probably better not to continue the conversation and just gently sort of move yourself out of that zone, So we have to know our threshold barriers,
Especially when you get someone that never shuts up, never leaves you a time to even place a word. These are the worst.
Yeah. So I try to exit those ones pretty quickly.
Yes, indeed.
And I'll tell you some other handy hint. I'll tell you a handy hint. I used to meet guys, let's say, in a social situation where there would be like, loud music or, at a party or whatever. And you'd always try and talk, but you could never hear each other. And my answer, I suddenly realized, if you're going to meet someone in that kind of setting, why are you talking? The music's too loud. It's a party. It's a place where you go and you enjoy yourself. So get him on the dance floor. Get him on the dance floor, and the dance tells you everything.
Yeah, indeed.
No words necessary. No words necessary.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, this guy's got no rhythm, or man, this guy's got the moves, So, I mean, of course, there has to be more to it than that, but
absolutely.
Yeah, I just thought that was a really I used to look at these other young girls and they'd be talking to these guys and they couldn't hear each other. And I'd say, why are you doing this? They can't hear you. You can't hear them. Just get on the dance floor and just, start enjoying yourself. Don't make it too cerebral.
So were you a dancing queen?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say I was a great dancer, but, had my moves. Can
imagine.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. What was your very first job? Do you remember how much you were getting paid for the first job?
Yeah, my first job. Well, actually, before I became a teacher, I did a shorthand typing course.
Oh.
Shorthand typing, of course, doesn't exist anymore.
On those typing machines?
No, it was like a script you would write. Someone would sit there and then you'd have all the shorthand script you would use to take down your boss's letter, dear sir, thank you for your letter, So anyway, my first job was, my first sort of like official job was in a publishing company, and I was a secretary to one of the editors. And I remember my weekly salary was $108 a week.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, $108 a week. I thought I was doing all right. Other people were getting 132, but I said, no, I've got a good place. I'm okay with 108.
So wait a
Yeah,
second. Let's do a quick math. So 100, how much, 32 you said? How much, 108?
$108 a week.
That
Yeah,
was $21.60 a day. Divided by 5.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Now,
No, I remember back then. What was I, 17 perhaps at that time? So, train ticket was $2, and I wasn't like it was. Things were not expensive then.
it was enough to keep you happy and keep you, be the best dancing queen you can be,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
At that day, that's
Well,
what matters,
yeah. I mean, back then, my brother at the same time, my brother was at university, he was studying law, and he had a part-time job. And I remember he said, oh, you're getting $108 a week. Geez, you're lucky. And I said, well, what about you? He said, I only make $12 a week.
What?
And he lived on $12 a week.
Holy smoke.
Yeah. His flat was only like $4. His room in his flat was $4 a week, and food was like $3. And then he had a little bit of
Holy
pocket money to take his
smoke.
girlfriend out.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I thought I was doing well. 108.
Yeah, compared to you were bowling, yeah.
Yeah. I was rolling in the dough.
Making it red,
Oh yeah.
Ah, beautiful. Now, I love this. I love the way this started. Let's move on. Let's move forward. Let's talk about your path. From the moment you left school to now, how would you describe your path? Would you say it was pretty much straightforward, smooth sailing, once you get into one line, you were set for life, or was it more like turns and twists, like a roller coaster?
Lots of turns and twists, and I think most people would probably say that about their life. I certainly ended up here now. Never ever thought I would be where I am today. Never. That's what I would say to young people now, is just open your mind and let yourself go to where your passion is, where you feel you're doing some good, you're getting some personal sense of satisfaction, and that's really it, and you will reach places you never ever thought of. So I would say my teens were, I was a teenager. I was out there.
Dancing queen.
Dancing queen. I was a dancing, because ABBA, of course, was big back then.
Yes,
ABBA and
yes.
Fever and all that. So they were pretty popular. So I was a classic teenager, I think, a bit of a rebel. But I guess I was, because I actually dropped out of high school. A lot of people don't know that. I actually dropped out of high school. And that's when I did my secretarial course, because my father said, you can always be a typist. And I said, yes, I can. But being a typist didn't seem to have that kind of ring of, excitement about it. But anyway, I did it. And then after I did, and I got this job at this publishing company, after a year, I realized, oh, no. But typing was one of the best skills I learned. Who would have known that computers would have come in and I needed that typing skill? So I have to say, it's one of the best skills I ever learned. So when I was 19, I went back to high school, and I actually did my high school diploma. And that's when I went off to university and went to, I went to teachers college and university at the same time. So it was really my brothers, I would say, who I have 3 older brothers who were quite supportive of me to do that, because they'd all been to university. So that was a little bit of kind of a kind of funny start. And then I did teaching for about 3 years. Was it 2 or 3 years? I did teacher college for 3 years, teaching for 2 years, and then I left, and that's when I went to drama school.
Beautiful.
And I did, and that, so my 20s were really very creative. And that's when I did my traveling, and I did a lot of writing and a lot of theater and stuff. And my 30s was when I said, okay, I'm checking out of all that now. I'm going to just see where this all takes me now. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll dive that in a moment. Wow, beautiful. That's amazing. Now, moving forward, you know, there's a saying that says, change your story, change your life. And by story, I mean what you tell ourselves inside your head. So when you were at some of your lowest or darkest or challenging times in your life, how did you change your story internally to change your reality externally?
I have had some kind of dark periods, I have to say. That's being honest. I have, fortunately now, I'm very, very aware of how my brain thinks. So there are certain things that physiologically, if I start feeling like that, I know I need to go to a doctor. You know, I need some help, like if I'm so super anxious or something like that. And sometimes it can't be because of anything in particular. That was in the past. I did suffer depression, actually, in my 20s. I did suffer depression, and it took a while for me to realize that I was depressed, because I didn't have anything to be depressed about. You know, I think that was the hard thing, until one day a friend of mine said to me, you know, how you're talking is not, it's not normal. You shouldn't think like that. I can't even remember what I said, but he suggested, you know, go and see the doctor at university. So I went to see the doctor, and that was one of the best things I did. And it turns out that I felt I was a misfit in New Zealand. I just didn't, everything was there. Like everyone was saying, New Zealand's the most beautiful country in the world. New Zealand's the most amazing place to live and work. New Zealand, you know, all your family's here, everybody's here. And I thought, well, why do I feel so unhappy here? So it really took for me to leave New Zealand to realize, because whenever I left New Zealand, I always felt so much happier.
Really?
And I think you might relate.
Yes, I can relate to that. Yes.
So I kind of thought, maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I should just leave. You know, I shouldn't be there. You know, I don't have to live where I was born, you know. So eventually I did do that. And that took some kind of you see, some people would say, oh, but aren't you just escaping from whatever that problem is? And I said, if it takes escape to make me feel better, then I'm 100% for it, because I don't think I'm any more insane. In fact, I'm saner being outside New Zealand than I was inside New Zealand. Inside New Zealand, I just felt somehow very crushed. It's very hard to explain, but so when I left New Zealand, I always felt really good. And so after that, in terms of dark periods, yes, I've had a few. I have, okay, my situation during COVID was, of course, I think I might have told you, but my husband passed away of COVID. And the business we had, of course, primarily relying on international students, and the borders were closed, so that the business was crashing. And of course, I was in a foreign land. My family weren't around me. Nobody was here, so I was just at home alone in the four walls. So I would go through, you know, really, really, really deep trauma. But what I had to do was, particularly after my husband passed away, I remember thinking, every day I have to write down something good that happened today. And I won't say, you know, they say the thing about, oh, you know, say what you're grateful for. I couldn't even come to that. I couldn't even do that. I had to just say, I just had to write down today, this happened, which was good. And sometimes it was just something like, I got a call from someone I hadn't heard from for a really long time. It was really nice to talk to her, you know, or it might have been my air tickets that we were going to use in April. I got a refund, you know, or suddenly I had an extra $500 in my account that I didn't think you know, every day I had to do that, because when you're in a very, very, very black place, you've got to have a sort of a ladder to kind of climb up to pull yourself out. And these things, these good things were things that pulled me out. And then after I was able to do that, there was a certain point where I realized I stopped thinking about the good things. And I say that in a positive way, because I felt I didn't need to rely on that. So at that point, after that, I started to feel, I was able to feel grateful. I was able to feel grateful to, you know, AirAsia for refunding my tickets, grateful to my friend who contacted, grateful to that other person who deposited $500 in my account. You know, I was able to move to that point. But that didn't mean that the really traumatic things were not suddenly appearing. So what I did was I wanted to ask myself some questions. If I was feeling very, very traumatized, because there's no one else here, you know, and I don't want to burden everybody else. Everyone else is going through so much in COVID. I thought I have to contend with this myself. So I wrote a list of questions to ask myself whenever I was in that situation. And there were questions like, am I comparing myself too much to others? Or am I taking this one day at a time? Or do I need to see a professional? Meaning a professional, meaning maybe a doctor, maybe a lawyer, maybe an accountant, you know, do I need to see someone? Another thing was, I mean, many questions. Turns out there were 23 questions I asked myself. 23 questions.
Each day?
What's that?
Each day?
No, just whenever I was very, very traumatized, very overwhelmed. And then what I would do is, once I got to the heart of that, of, let's say, comparing myself too much to others, seeing all these other people who, oh, COVID, oh, that's the best thing that happened. I actually made more money in COVID than I ever made ever before. No, sure. I didn't. And most of the world didn't, you know. So, you know, I would feel, if I heard that kind of information, I would start to think, is there something wrong with me? Am I not a, you know, so I was comparing myself too much to others. So that would be an example. So once I actually realized what that was, I would be able to reconcile in myself, like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Everyone's got their own worlds that they live in. You don't know what's really going on for that person. This is COVID, you know, everybody's going through something. So don't think you should be like that person. So I would somehow reconcile myself, and I would feel better from that. Even to this day, you know, I still use those questions. In fact, I have written a book about those questions.
Wow.
That's going to come out in September. It's called 23 Things to Think About When You Feel Overwhelmed. And it's basically how the procedure works when you're feeling super stressed or overwhelmed or anxious. You go through these 23 questions. There will only ever be like 2 or 3 that will resonate for that particular issue. And then once you know that, you go to the chapter, you work out, okay, what that's all about, what research tells us about that kind of phenomenon, and then what you can do about it on that
Beautiful.
moment. Yeah. Because I think people, and as a result, I did that. I mean, what are we in COVID? We were there for nearly 2 years in COVID. There was a period towards the end where I started to feel like I was like a superwoman. It's hard to describe. I felt like I was this, had these kind of wristbands, and I could, fight off bolts of thunder, leap buildings in a single bound. And so when we did open the borders again and we were back into it, I was very ready and had all the energy in the world, and I was up for it, But yeah, so to answer your question, what do I do in the very low times? Nowadays, well, I have to work out, is this a physiological thing, or is this because of something? Usually nowadays it's because of something, like my husband passed away, or maybe there's some financial issues, or maybe someone else near me is going through something and it's impacting on me, So, and then I just ask myself these questions, and that helps me move forward.
Did you at any time, and the lowest of those time, when you had to close your school because of all that was going on and you being alone, a dark place, did you ever at any moment get the feeling that, hey, screw that, I'm closing shop, I'm going to go back home in New Zealand and do something else and live a quiet, relaxing life with no stress, just retire, so to speak, and just be close to family, close to nature, close to where I'm?
Well, what a lot of people forget is that you might want to do that, but the reality is you can't, because you owe way too much money. And what's going to happen? You have to pay back all this debt.
Yeah.
If I go back to New Zealand and I sit there and I think, oh, I don't want to have to deal with this anymore, it's going to be a tap on my shoulder at some point from some lawyer in Malaysia who's going to say, excuse me, you owe us 150,000, So the reality is I couldn't. Even though I might have wanted to, I couldn't. You have to, and that's not just COVID. I think in any situation with the business is collapsing. You can't run away. You have to sort the issue out. You have to somehow get some money to pay back all your people you owe money to, and then close it up. And then when you get to the point where you've made enough money to pay back all the other people, you say to yourself, why do I want to close this? I've made all this money. I've paid back everybody. So you keep going.
Yeah.
This is the reality of business that a lot of people don't know. They think, oh, open a business, when you run out of money, you close it. No, you go into debt. And then the business, like our school can make so much money that there's no way I, as an individual, could ever pay back the debt. Only the school can do that. So I had to stay in it, but then at the same time, there's a lot of people there who are like my family. They live on what we do. Because when you close a school, that's a business, and you say, that's it, I'm done. You're not just saving yourself, you're actually destroying 10, 15, 20 other people's lives. Because now they have to go out and find a job, which they may not get. So, it's a complex thing to close something down.
Absolutely. One of the realization I've had especially the past few years is that nothing happens to us but for us, to help us grow. And just like in life, it's we are taught first. We go through the challenges, the lessons first, then we learn. So when you went through all those dark times, especially losing your husband, all at the same time, your business being drastically affected due to COVID, if you look at it from a spiritual eye, what lesson was that trying to teach you, and what lesson did you learn through all of that?
Certainly with my husband passing away, I learned don't be afraid of death.
Mm,
And from a spiritual perspective, not everybody's religious, but I'm a Muslim. I converted to Islam, and I I used to believe in a hereafter, but I never really thought about it to the same extent as I did after he passed away. So
mm,
when he passed away, this is, you know, the person that is closest person to you, your life, beyond your parents, your family, you know, this is your soulmate. You know, when someone like that passes away, or a child, or, you know, to me, there's only one way I could reconcile it. There's only one way I could get up in the morning and continue, and that was to know that I would see them again. Because if I thought I'm never going to see this person again, that's an impossible thought.
mhm.
So that, in terms of spiritual enhancement, that took me to another level. The kind of interesting thing is that the first thing I did after I got home, because he was in hospital, I was also in hospital, I had COVID also. Basically, he passed away and I survived. So when I got home, what's the first thing I do is I Google, is there life after death?
Wow.
Is there life after death? And then suddenly I start getting all these stories of people who've had near experiences. I know on your podcast, you've had a number of those people too. Because I just had to feel still connected to him somehow. And that talking about spiritual awakenings, that was really pushed me to another level on that, because that's the only way, even to this day, that's the only way I can move through the day, is that there is a life after death, and I'm going there. You know, see you, honey, not tomorrow, but maybe in 20 years time, I don't know, 30 years, whenever it is, but we'll meet again. And that makes me feel good. Yeah.
I went through something similar because, one other thing I understood and I came to realization is that whatever you're going through now is preparing you for what's to come next. Even though at that moment we may not realize it. For example, you mentioned you did learn how to type, you start traveling and all that. Back then, they were completely, isolated thing. But now if you put them together, if you look at everything on a map, everything, forms like a linear line. What helped me, for example, back in the fall of 2020, my father was he was diagnosed with cancer. And before that, spring and summer 2020, I get really interested into, just like you said, past life reading. I consumed, being at the start of the pandemic, closed at home, nothing to do, especially in Canada, one of the strictest countries in terms of regulation during the pandemic. I devoured countless hours of videos on YouTube, books on past everything. I was absolutely fascinated by that. And that's honestly, Raewyn, that's what really helped me cope with what was going next. Because if it wasn't for that, I would have gone crazy, especially being stuck at home because of pandemic, after you're being frozen and going on through all of that. I don't think I would have been able to make it. But this is what allowed me to understand that, hey, just like at night, we retire, we go to bed, in the morning you wake up, you have a fresh new day ahead of you. Same thing here. Once this mission, this lifetime, this play, so to speak, because it's a play, this movie ends, when the curtain falls behind, all the actors congratulate, high five each other. Oh, you were amazing. Oh, you need to a little bit adjust this. Next time we do it with the reverse roles, Once I understood that, it made so much sense to me that said, you know what, just like you said, I am absolutely not afraid of dying. Of course, I don't want to die yet, but I'm not afraid of it. And when you realize that, you get a much better appreciation for life. You understand things at a much deeper level, that you become almost nothing affects you in a good way, not in a cocky, arrogant way, but in a good way, in a positive way, in a self-assured way.
Yeah, and it's very freeing.
Yes,
very liberating. It's very liberating. And I do ask myself sometimes. I know some atheists, and just think, how do you handle that if your son at the age of 7 gets hit by a car and suddenly dies? How do you live with that? If you don't believe there's anything after this. And most of them, I don't know. I mean, there might be some.
Or let's say an
atheists
infant,
right now.
God forbid, an infant that dies after 4 months. If that's the only life for them, I mean, it's really disheartening,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So, I mean,
yeah.
I guess, atheists do require a lot more information for them to be believers. That's basically their argument. And my understanding is, we have a faith. That's what, people have a Christian faith, Muslim faith, Hindu faith, it's a faith. You have faith. There's no way that you can measure faith. You just have to have faith that there is something more.
Absolutely.
And the answer is that if there's not, let's say, I die and I find out there's not, then what does it matter? I had a life of love and joy and excitement and looking forward to the next, like I say, the next act in this scenario.
I sent you a video of an hypnotherapist doing not a past life regression, because that is done in person, but a past life reading on me. I was being spellbound. I was fascinated. Have you considered, for example, seeing a hypnotherapist do a past life reading on you in person?
I did actually long time ago.
Wow.
In my retirement years, I have a past life reading.
Wow.
And apparently, actually, I've had a few of them over the years, but one of them was that I was let's say when I was like about 28, they said in my past life I was a lady of the manor. That was that I had a lot of staff. Another one of my lives was I was a male in Tibet in a village who was a anyway, of course there's thousands of lives, of course, so yeah, I don't know whether, for me it's kind of interesting enough. Who knows? No one knows until we actually do die. So it's just another way some people believe that.
There's a beautiful book that really helped me and opened my eyes that I recommend to everyone. That is called The Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newman. And this is an actual, hypnotherapist that has done over thousands of past life readings with people. And he just shares example after thousands of cases that exactly when they do the past life reading, when someone passes away, tell them exactly what happens to the soul, how the soul is welcomed on the other side, what happens after, how do you prepare? Like, for example, when we're in college, in high school, before graduating, we meet with a course counselor to say, okay, so what do you want to learn? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? They counsel you. Same thing happens before each reincarnation. You meet with your soul guide, so to speak. It's okay, what lesson do you want to master in this lifetime? It is about 35 major life lessons, like, for example, love, compassion, service, self-service, and other things like that. And we can only master one or at most two of those lessons in each lifetime. So you sit down with your soul guides. Okay, so what do you want to master in this lifetime? What do you want to be? Where? You choose your family, your parents, you choose your body, your gender, everything. And you actually sit in a classroom based on what Dr. Michael Newton is describing in detail in this book. Is absolutely the kind of book that you cannot put down. You can even find on YouTube the audio version of it. It's free. I'll send you the link. Download it. It's beyond fascinating.
Wow. Yeah.
That's exactly what opened my eyes. And wow, it made so much sense. This is honestly the single most influential book I've read, I would say, in the past 10 years, because that's really what opened my eyes and took me into my spiritual awakening, opening my eyes to what this is about. Because me growing up in a Muslim family, even though they were very forward-thinking, progressive, but still, in the Muslim religion, it's once you die, you're done until the day of resurrection or whatever, until the judgment day, so to speak. But that never felt right to me, because just like you mentioned earlier, let's say, God forbid, you die at a young age, then it's not fair to you because you haven't experienced anything. But once I saw that, I said, wow, this makes so much sense for me.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows? I'm open, but
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just looking forward to meeting my best bud,
Yeah, exactly.
in the next world, and
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it won't be it'll be nice. I'm sure it'll be
Absolutely.
very nice.
Beautiful. Wow. What a conversation. I knew it was good. It's going to be good, but this is beyond. Wow. Now, you mentioned about, converting to Islam. Tell us about that. How did that happen?
Okay, so my husband is a Muslim, actually, and I met him here in Malaysia, and initially, okay, so the story goes is when I was at university, when I was in my 20s, I was questioning a lot of things about, because I grew up as a Christian, though I didn't really go to church that much, but I had the Christian beliefs. But when I went to university was when sort of my mind sort of expanded, and I started researching all these other religions. And of course, Buddhism seemed to be the thing that, white Western people seem to be really into. So I kind of looked at that, and somehow that didn't kind of hit me. There was a lot of things I liked about it. But I remember coming home to my flat and saying, people were saying to me, so, Raewyn, she's really into all these different religions. So what religion would you be if you had to make a choice, And I said, you know what? I think I've become a Muslim.
Oh,
and
wow.
everyone just cracked up. It's cracked up like, you? It's the last thing. It's the last thing you'd ever be. I said, and I laughed too. But there was something back then, you have to realize that's 40 years ago. Back then, I was in New Zealand. There really weren't Muslims in New Zealand. The only Muslims were really Indians, some Indians, and there was some Turkish who were selling the kebabs, That's it. So I was never exposed to Islam at all. And to me, at that point, it was like some kind of ancient religion. Turns out Christianity is more ancient than this one. So I didn't really think about it again until I came to Malaysia, and I got to meet. I made some friends who were Muslim girls, and I started to realize this is not what I thought. Actually, I just thought all the kind of same old stuff about, in Islam women have got no rights, and you're just property. And actually in Christianity that's how it is. in Islam it's not like that at all. And when Islam was first kind of came on the scene, it was supposed to be the forward-thinking, liberating religion. Free the slaves, give them, that's actually when it's a big kind of eye-opener for me, and it kind of my interest in it. And then I met my husband, and who was a Muslim, and there was a certain way that he treated me that I thought, I said, because he was a Somali, Canadian Somali, and he was the first man I'd met who kind of treated me with sort of, I don't want to, this is a blanket statement, I say treated me with respect. Of course, men treat me with respect, it's not like that, but there was a certain way he approached me as a woman that I thought, that's really interesting. Maybe that's just because you're so amazing, as you do when you meet someone for the first time who you're really attracted to. But he just said, no, this is how I was raised as a Muslim man, is we treat women with respect always. And And that never stopped for the entire time we were married. That never stopped. So that really opened my eyes. And then I converted to Islam, and then we got married, and you know, the rest is history. I've never ever regretted that, ever, never. It's given me a spiritual a connection that I had before, but it was a bit wandering around. This has given it a bit more definition. I would say I'm a moderate Muslim. You know, I'm not a fundamentalist. Yeah. So,
Beautiful.
and I will be that. I will be that for the rest of my life. Yeah.
So how was converting to Islam changed or enhanced your life compared to before?
Well, it's hard to say, because I also married my husband at the same time. I mean, it was a matter of a year, you know, so I felt a lot of inner peace. I think that's probably the only way I could describe it. A lot of that was because I married a great person. But I also think the religion helped me. I mean, I'm not someone who is has a lot of even to this day still. I have some Muslim friends. It's not like all my friends are Muslims, but I'm still very kind of have a range of different kinds of people in my life, and I think that's really important. But certainly not drinking alcohol. That was the best thing that ever happened.
Sure.
That's just, I don't even know why people do it. Seriously, that was a great thing. So biologically, I felt a lot better. Fasting, I've been right into fasting. I do that pretty regularly. The power of prayer, I found that to be very
soothing.
Very soothing. Yeah, it's very hard. I would say inner peace, really. Inner peace, and that I'm okay and everything's going to be okay. That feeling. Yeah.
How did you guys meet?
It was actually at a party. A friend of mine had a birthday party, and he was one of the guests there, and this was one of these situations that within 30 seconds, I knew that this is the person for me for the rest of my life.
Wow. What made you have that conviction right away?
There was something in his voice. There's something in his voice that was very, I felt very, very at home. Like this is, yeah, it's hard to describe, but, and also he was, going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, you know, about, ask somebody, you know, be interested in them. He was someone who had it, you know, he talked about himself a little bit, and then he said, and what about you? And I thought,
the magic question, huh?
Yeah. You know, I just thought, wow, he's really got this down pat. You know, he knows exactly how much to say, and, you know, then stop and then ask about her, you know, and, you know, so there were a lot of things that kind of happened in the very beginning in terms of our interchange that made me feel incredibly comfortable with him. And I knew he was a Muslim, and that somehow I was not afraid of that. You know, I mean, I know some girls here, they meet someone who's a Muslim and they think, oh, you know, don't want to, but I don't know why. I was just not afraid of that, and I was ready for him. And he I always have a bit of a laugh, because I think if we'd met 20 years before, I don't know if we would have ended up getting married. I think we were the right age for each other. You know, we'd come through enough together. We met at the right time. We were ready, very, very well suited for each other, you know, so.
Everything happens for a reason at the right time. You meet the right people at the right time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So you said within 30 seconds of meeting him, the first time you knew that he was the one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did
I
he,
was like completely under his power.
yeah. Did he also
Yeah.
feel the same way?
Yeah, I don't know, you're a man. I don't know whether you would agree with this, but women are very intuitive, they
Yes.
pick things up very quickly.
Yeah.
He said that for him, it took him, a little while, and then one day he was just having a coffee by himself, and he sort of said, "No, this is what am I doing? This is crazy. This is someone I want to be with," and so he says it took him a little bit longer, but my observation of him was, but you never went away. You just kept coming back. So his actions really kept speaking louder than his words, So I would say in the beginning he may have had the same kind of connection, but he was not necessarily in tune enough to know this is somebody. But his actions said, he never ever stopped coming to see me, so I guess that means something,
Who made the first move towards being together?
I don't know.
Did you ask him out for? No, sorry, no.
No,
Never mind.
he did. He did.
Okay.
He was the man with the moves. He was the man with
Okay.
yeah,
Good. Awesome.
yeah.
How long were you guys married for?
20 years.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you guys are connected at soul level? You're soulmates, you were together in previous lives, and
I don't know. Well, actually, because when he spoke in his voice, there was a sense, as like I say, of being home. So I would say it was something to do with, we were old souls somehow. Maybe we'd met before in a previous life. I don't know, but there was some very, very strong, very, very clear connection that was present from, like I say, the first 30 seconds. I knew there was something, this is something different than I've never experienced before. Yeah.
life is really fascinating sometimes. What are the odds, if you look at it from that perspective, of a girl born in New Zealand and a Canadian Somali man to come together? I mean, that's like the odds are 1 in a billion or something. But coming together at the same place at a party, and was it in Kuala Lumpur?
Yeah.
See, it's fascinating, mind blowing.
And the thing was that I was about to leave, I was about to leave because I thought, okay, I'd been there for a couple of hours and we'd sung happy birthday to the hostess, and, I was ready to go. And it was when I was just going that I saw him, and then, we just started chatting, and I just thought, he could have been like 2 meters to the left, and I would have just straight out that door, and my life would have been completely and totally,
Fascinating.
So yeah, it just that's why I come back to this thing of, you've got to let things go where they need to be. I think about sometimes how many chances I've missed in the past.
Oh yes,
I took exit left instead of exit right. I mean,
all
we don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
But this was the one that he was the right one for me. We were very well suited to each other. Saying that, married life is not easy. I'm not saying that it's when you meet the right person, everything's all sweet and rosy. It's not like that. You still have to work at it.
Beautiful.
Always have to work at it. And but it really comes down to the character of the two people. If the two people are genuinely care about each other, they will accept that you have your ups and downs and you have disagreements, and but if you can feel really confident that this person is there for me no matter what happens, that's it. And that was never wavering with us. Though we did have our arguments and we did have disagreements, and There were some things he liked to do that I got very frustrated with, and I'm sure he was very frustrated. Well, no, he was definitely frustrated with me with some things. So, you know, it isn't easy, but it's worth it if you do meet someone. It's one of those things in life that if you meet someone and both of you want to have a go, I'd say just jump on it and just see where it goes, you know.
It's an open mind, because we can make all the plans in the world, but 90% of the time the plans don't go anywhere near what was planned. And that's what makes life so exhilarating in a way, because you don't know what's happening, can happen.
Yeah. I mean, even like now, for the next 25 years, I don't know what's going to happen. I got some plans, like you're saying, but
yeah, look at me, for example, born in Afghanistan, grew up in France, then family moved to Canada, and then travel on the world, and being now in Malaysia, of all places. I would have never,
exactly.
if you had asked me where's, I would have even probably been able to point on a map, where's Malaysia?
Exactly.
Like 10, 15 years ago, you know, Malaysia, is that the word? Something in Asia, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same. I'm the same.
Yeah.
I would never have. I mean, if sometimes I think, you know, on my deathbed, if somebody says, you know, so what did you do in your life? If somebody said to me, oh, you spent 40 years living in Malaysia, I'd say, did I? I mean, you know,
yeah,
because you make it your home, you know, and your home is where you feel connected and where your heart is, you know. It can be anywhere, but Malaysia is such a great place to live for a foreigner, really.
For sure. We can do an entire episode on that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let me ask one more question about your beloved husband. Do you feel him around you nowadays? Do you still feel his presence, or do you sense sometime that is around you? And
I do. I wouldn't, well, okay. So the story goes is that when he passed away, in Islam, they say that the first 100 days are you coming to terms with this, and after that, you should be okay. So I used to ask people, how long is this grieving, this horrible grieving, supposed to go on for? And people would say, there's no time limit. I said, no, I don't want that. I want you to tell me how long, you know, because it's not good, doesn't feel good, you know. And they said, well, in Islam it's 100 days. Somebody suddenly piped up and said, 100 days. I said, okay, that's what I needed to hear. So in those 100 days, in the first like 30, 40 days, I had some experiences that were, for example, in the morning, he always used to get up and he used to always go into the bathroom. He'd go to the toilet and then flush the toilet, and then he would shave. So he would always tap the razor like on the side of the, and then he would shave, right? I woke up one morning and I heard that. I heard the toilet flush and I heard this tap, tap, tap. And I thought, that's a little bit freaky.
yeah.
And I thought, is this him like here, you know? Is this his presence here? But the really good thing is that I wasn't afraid. For some reason, I wasn't afraid. So I had that experience. And then this is during COVID. So our school is just about a 5-minute walk down the road from where I live. I went down there because as a business owner, we were allowed to go out and go into our place of work, but no one else was allowed to be there except us. So I was sitting there in my office, and of course all the doors were locked except one door, which is where I came in. And I was sitting there and I saw someone walk past the door.
Wow.
My office door. They were inside and they went down into the staff room. And I was freaking out because I thought, I'm alone here. And my heart was just beating. I was thinking, I mean, this guy's going to come and rob us, or I've only got me here. What am I going to do? So I kind of crept out and I walked down to the staff room area. And because I was waiting to be confronted by him, because the only way he could come out was past me. And of course, there was nobody there.
Did you recognize his facial or body features?
It was like, because my husband always loved to wear blue, and it was someone
Oh,
in blue. So that's the
wow.
second. That's the
I'm getting
second one.
goosebumps right now.
Yeah. And the third one, I was locking up the school maybe a few weeks later. And our school is on the third floor, essentially, the third floor of a building. And and of course, no one was there, except there was a person walking past. And they said to me, on one of the door handles was a huge butterfly.
Wow.
And this person came up to me and said, look at this, this is a beautiful butterfly. I said, what's a butterfly doing on the third floor of a high-rise building in the middle of the city, where there are no plants? What's this butterfly doing here? And then she said, in Malaysia, when someone's passed away and you see a butterfly, it's them coming back to say hello. So that was my third experience, my third floor of a high-rise building. Where'd that come from? So in terms of his presence, I'd like to think that they were, other people, of course, could argue, no, that's just coincidence. But I thought that was interesting. There were 3 of them. And then after that, I didn't have quite so much, because in Islam, they say, like, over the 100 days, it takes this person to ascend to the next level. And then there's a point where they move on to the next level, and they don't, they're watching you, but they don't necessarily engage. I have had, when these things happened, the other thing is that when these things happened, something really good happened afterwards.
Wow. Like
so, I got my refund for my tickets.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yes, that was quite a lot. Another one was I applied for a loan, which I didn't think I was going to get. And like that same day, I got the message of the loan had come through.
Wow.
So now I kind of look at that and I think, maybe he's coming, maybe he knows something, and he's coming to say, don't worry, you're going to be okay. Something's going to happen today. I don't know.
Do you sometimes see him in your dream?
I do sometimes, yeah, but not recently. I don't recall it so much, but yeah, during the first like 100 days, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was there. What about you? What about when your father passed away? Did you see him a lot? Did you have any experiences like that?
Experiences per se, no, but I did see him. Every morning before waking up, I have those vivid dreams that, when you know that you're dreaming, but you're also very aware. It's just like you're watching a movie. I can hear what people are saying, what they're wearing, everything. I'm there as if I'm in a movie, witnessing a movie. And I have those every single morning. Sometimes, yes, I've seen him a few times in my dreams. The one that I really remember was about a week before he passed. But I didn't share that with my siblings because I didn't want back then. But after I told them, staying at my sister's house back in Toronto, and I was me, my sister, and him. I saw him on his bed. He was standing wearing his usual dress pants and polo. He was packing up with my older sister beside him. I said, where are you going? So I'm going on a trip.
Oh,
that was just a week before he passed.
Wow.
That's the one that I really remember. Of course, I didn't tell my sisters, my siblings at the time, but I shared that with them afterwards. And they were like, wow. I had them a few other times come in my dreams, but not lately.
Yeah.
Actually, yes. About 3-4 months ago, he came in a dream. It was me, all my siblings, and my brother's wife. He was sitting right in front of me, and I was sitting beside my siblings. And the person beside me, right next to me, was my brother's wife, and I told her, "Hey, do you see Papa is here?" And they were looking at it. Where? But I was the only one able to see him. The others were
mm,
not completely oblivious, wouldn't see him. That
mm,
was the last I remember.
mm, mm.
Yeah. But the one I said, that one I didn't forget. The one I just shared with you just before he ascended. Another one I remember very vividly. About 6 months ago, or maybe a year ago, we were walking somewhere. I don't know where. Could have been a beach. Could have been somewhere. There was a narrow passage, and there were coins all over the ground, of all size, all denominations. And he was telling me, "Come on, take them up, take him up." And right after that, that was when the moment during that time last summer. That was when I was in a prosperous area of part of my life back then.
Mm,
My book was
mm.
launched, business was going good. I had a full-time job and I had other things going on. Sometimes I I remember that he was telling me, "Come on, just all yours, pick him up."
Yeah, yeah.
These are the ones that are the most memorable that I remember.
Mm, mm.
But I haven't seen him in my dream in a 3-4 months.
Yeah, I think that's just part of moving to the next level of consciousness, for ourselves, as that's normal
Yeah.
and natural. Um, uh, but I think sending messages like that, I partly, I think, like I said, there was a point where I started feeling like sort of Wonder Woman, Superwoman. I think a lot of that was, a strength I'd got. Many things. I just learned so much from him during our time together, and pretty much lived my life how he would have wanted to live. I mean,
Mhm.
he was an extremely generous person. Um, Maybe too generous, which was one of our. But he was extremely generous. But if I learned anything, it's I've learned from him generosity and the art of giving, and crossing cultures, and uh, we are all wonderful individuals, in our own right. Doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, and he was very, very much like that. So whenever I have, I do have, actually, just the other day, I had some kind of funny experience. Somebody said to me, "Oh, when you see the light flicker, if you have a lamp and the light flickers, that's him trying to tell you something." I thought, oh, yeah. Um, and then one night the light started to flicker, and I thought, oh, well, you got something good for. I did have some very good news the next day.
Mm. You
Yeah,
sometimes get, you walk on the street or somewhere, someone passes, you smell his scent that someone is
yeah,
wearing, or
yeah,
his favorite song, for example,
yeah,
a saying or quote from a movie, from a commercial, whatever. You just happen, or just open a book, for example, a page, and oh, that word is something just speaks to you.
yeah,
Do you have
yeah,
those?
yeah, yeah. The perfume of a flower or something.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I get that. And that's what people say, that's him saying hi. I think, yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say, but I think when we die, even scientists will tell you energy does not disappear. Energy will
Absolutely.
always be there. So how he has manifested himself in my life is still present. But I'm so used to it now. When I came home from the hospital and he'd passed away and I hadn't, people said, "Oh, it must have been so terrible walking into your apartment, because there's all his clothes and everything there." And I said, the really weird thing was that it was okay somehow. And now, of course, I've removed a lot of them, but I still have all his. He was an avid reader, so in our living room here, it's just absolutely full of books. I still have all the books here. I suppose at some stage I might have to donate them somewhere, but there's some things that were really, really unique to him that I had to put them away somewhere because they were too much of a reminder. But that's how I live with it, really. I live with, well, first of all, like we were saying earlier, it helps you to confront death and you're not afraid of it.
Sure.
But the other thing is it makes you, yeah, I mean, the whole energy thing. I mean, the thing that's left with me is what he left behind for me. He left behind many things that have helped me to this day, that there's no way, even the school, you see, the school started really by accident. And it's because of him that because he was an entrepreneur, you see, so he knew what it was like to hit the rough stuff in business, you know. And I was always the one who wanted to run away. So I still remember once saying something like, let's just get out of here. This is really bad. I hate this. And he'd just say, don't you ever say that ever again. I don't want to ever hear those words come out of your mouth. So, oh, good. You know, but that's actually, that was so good for me. That pushed me to the next level of saying, it's okay, you can deal with this. You can handle it. You'll come through it. And every single time we have. And that came from him. If it wasn't for him, I would have bailed out a long time ago. Because it's not easy having a business, you know. And we've had incredibly successful times and we've had some really dark periods. So it's not like, oh, open a business, become rich. No, you have to really work and you have to keep working at it and keep pushing it. And it goes through so many stages in its life. You have to always be dynamic, always wanting to see what can we do that can make it new and, you know. And he had a lot of experience in that. So that's what he's left. That's the legacy for me. He's left is he gave me the strength and the support always to say, you can do it. What are you bailing out? What are you, a coward? No, you can handle this. And I'm still here, you know. He passed away in 1st of January 2021. So what's this, 2 years now? Just over 2.5.
Yeah.
2.5 years. And I feel bigger, better, stronger. I would attribute probably 80% of where I'm at now because of what I learned from him.
So that's beautiful because he came with a purpose to make you believe that what you can do and all that. What would you say, what lesson, what gift did you bless him with? What did he through you and from you?
Okay, so there was a saying, he was an entrepreneur. He was someone who I would describe as a shooting star. You know, he was very, very good at getting things sorted very early on and just making it big. And then he'd just move on to the next thing. So he didn't have the kind of, see, I'm a marathon runner and I think he's a sprinter. So
very much.
Yeah, I think I'm someone who will turn up there at school every single day, no matter how bad it is, no matter how great it is, no matter what's going on, you know, good, bad, ugly, whatever. I will be there in that room every single day. And I want to be that person that people can feel you can come to me, you can rely on me. I will be the buck stops with me, you know. And the school's been going for 17 years now. So, you know, it's a long time. Whereas he is someone who would do something for 3 years, shoot it to the sky, and then make a lot of money and then shut it down and go to the next thing. So he was not someone who would keep developing what he had. And I think that's something, he did say that to me. He said, that's something I need to learn from you, because he had so many great businesses. Almost anything he put his hand to, he would succeed at. But then after he sort of after he kind of hit the sky, he'd just say, right, that's it, done. Next, what can I do now? Whereas I'd say, no, you've got to develop this, take it to here, to there, develop that side, get more staff, do this, do that, and he'd say, nah, I can't be bothered, So that is something I think I passed on to him. The marathon runner thing, one thing at a time, one day at a time, measured thinking. He taught me how to take a risk, and I taught him how to be a bit more measured with his, with his decisions. He had some very, very big plans that were extremely challenging, and I basically he died of COVID, but he was one of these people who had he was a chronic diabetic, and I think the stress of some of his previous projects really compromised his body. That's why he went to Canada, because he had to have basically 3 or 4 years of medical treatment there. Meanwhile, he opened up a business and was incredibly successful at it at the same time. That but the stress really of some of his bigger ventures basically made his body very, very weak. So COVID came along and wiped him out, basically.
Do you feel you guys were meant to meet?
Yeah. And you know what? I think because we don't have children, see, because we met when I was 40. He was 40 also. There's something that I had to do in life, and I didn't really know until I met him, which was as an educationist, I've always, enjoyed teaching, but with a language school, because that's what we have, it's an international language school, teaching English to people, particularly of certain countries, who will never have access to this kind of opportunity, is that golden ticket for the rest of their life. It's not like teaching 7-year-olds how to do long division. It's actually opening a door for someone for the rest of their life. So we have many students who come in who, for example, from a lot of countries that are war-torn, like Somalia, Libya, Iraq, Yemen, a lot of countries like that.
Do you have any students from Afghanistan?
We have. Unfortunately, we can't get any visas for Afghans, but we have had in the past. This basically is a terrorist country,
Yeah.
Malaysian immigration, supposedly. So I really, in my 30s, I knew I had a mission, but I didn't really know what it was. I had to connect with something that drove me, and now this school is the thing, and through him is the thing that helped me really get in touch with helping people change their lives, basically. I mean, they pay for it, it's not free, but it's just being in a business where you are transforming people's opportunities.
So would you say this is your purpose, your mission, and your gift in this lifetime?
Yeah. I think I am I'm a mixture of the many things. Teacher. I think that, as I said earlier, I think that's a calling for me as a teacher. I think I'm also someone who really believes in working as a team, and that can be one of the most positive experiences. Your work is not a place you come to and you kind of like hate and go home. I never wanted that with our school. I wanted it to be a place people love to come and work, and they felt appreciated and uplifted as a staff. It's a staff. and that was my goal, is that, you know, collectively as a group we can create incredible things. So that's another part of why having a business was the right thing for me.
Sure. What age group do you teach at your school?
Mainly they are 18 and above, just because they are high school leavers who are looking to go to university in Malaysia, most of them. So they come and they study with us for maybe 9 months, sometimes a year. And we take them from zero English right up to speaking like you and I.
Why would they decide to come to Malaysia and not learn it in another country, for example?
Well, that's a very good question, Payman. The answer to that question is a lot of people don't know that Malaysia has some very unique immigration policies. So that's why a lot of countries are aware that there are certain countries, certainly war-torn countries, where these people cannot go. Somalis, for example, cannot. I think there's only like 2 or 3 countries in the world that they can go and visit and get a student visa.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I think Yemen, Afghanistan is one. Iraq, Syria, obviously.
Palestine, those places, yeah.
Palestine, all those. These people cannot go anywhere else other than their own country and Malaysia.
Yeah, wow.
So if they can afford it, their family will try to send them to Malaysia because they will get a student visa. They can stay here for certainly a year to learn English, and then they'll have another maybe 3, 4, 5 years doing their bachelor's, master's. And then they can go back to their country and they can actually rebuild it, you know, from the terror and mayhem that happened while they were growing up, you know. So yeah, that's a Malaysian thing.
That is indeed a very unique niche. What gave you guys that idea in the first place to open a school for the people from war-torn countries that cannot go anywhere else but come to Malaysia?
Well,
that's a genius idea, actually.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it was a complete accident. I prior to that, I had been teaching in an international school for primary school. I taught kids mainly, not only English but maths and science and all the usual subjects. And after 9 years at that school, which was a wonderful experience, I just thought, okay, time for me to do something different. So I left, and I was actually because my husband and I also had a IT company. So I wanted to develop educational software. So I said, let's take this leap of faith and do that. And he was all keen on that. And then during that time, in the first year, 3 Somali students came to me and said, well, would you be able to teach us English? And I thought, okay, a little bit of pocket money, you know, while I develop these programs. And so I took these 3 people in, taught them English for about a couple of months, and then by 6 months I had 60 students.
Word of mouth. Wow.
Yeah, word of mouth. And the thing was I never knew about this war-torn country thing. I didn't know that these people couldn't travel anywhere else. So I had to employ another teacher, and then my husband and I were sitting down and we said, I think we've got ourselves a school here, you know. So we had to actually go through the whole process of actually getting a license, of actually having a proper premises, making it into a proper
So at first
school.
you were teaching them out of your apartment?
Not out of the apartment, out of the IT company.
Okay.
Yeah, so he had an office there, and I used to teach the students in there. And then we slowly took over the IT office. and he said, you can all work from home, can't you? The school's taking over. So a lot of us work from home, and I just took over the IT office. And then eventually that was on the lower ground. We're in the basement. And then after, I think about 8 months, we moved upstairs to where we are now. And then we just slowly expanded from there. Yeah. So it was an accident.
Mm. You know,
Never.
it's funny, sometimes the best business ideas come when you're least expecting them.
Yeah, because I think there are a lot of people who want to get into business and they're too, they say, oh no, I want to get all the agreements right. I want to get all the lawyers' documents correct. I want to get it. And it's like, but you haven't got any customers, you know? This is the thing. You've got to see.
Step
do
zero.
You have some, yeah. Do you have something that people want? That's all you need to do. Start off with that. You have something that people want and they want it enough to actually pay money for it. That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Common sense.
yeah, I know a number of people who just bog themselves down with bureaucratic sort of licensing and agreements with all these different parties, and it costs them a fortune and lawyers' fees. And I said, but you know, where's your customers? What are you actually doing? Are you making the world a better place? And 90% of the time, those ones collapse because they actually don't have anything. And you know what? Somebody told me, they said, never partner with a lawyer in business. I said, really?
That's a good one.
Never partner with a lawyer. I said, why? And they said, because all they can see is all the pitfalls and the problems. And they'll never ever get off, you know, they're the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, you know. So,
beautiful.
But what about you? I mean, when your business started to take off, that must have been by accident also, was it? Or was
my business was completely something that fell on my lap. I had no. So when I started my podcast, I started it in October of 2020 because I was bored. There's nothing to do, pandemic. After you're frozen, I need to do something. I started talking to people on podcasts because I love talking. It was part of my awakening. And also I just loved the fact that I was speaking with all these incredible, interesting people, learning new things. And then once I reach, after a year, 100 episodes, that's when people started reaching out to me. Hey, can you help me launch my podcast? At first I was hesitant. And then I said, one thing I learned through the pandemic that I realized is the tremendous power of questions and asking the right question. Then I started asking people, hey, do you have your own podcast? 99% would say no, and ask them why. 3 reasons. I don't have the time. I'm not a techie. I don't know how to start. And that's when I realized, hey, wait a second. I started asking them more empowering question, which was, would you be interested if I were to show you how to not only launch a podcast, but build your own platform so you can share your story in order to not only share your story, but display your expertise so you can connect with your audience, heart to heart, without having to cold call, cold chase, cold DM. And even if you have no pre-existing audience, or you're not a world-class celebrity or expert, you don't have a PhD after your name, so that you can attract your client and grow your business. Is that something interesting? I get a resounding yes. I get 6 clients within a weekend. And that was in end of November of 2021. And then between November 2021 and August of last year, 10 months, that allowed me to get 60 clients. That completely changed my life. I haven't shared my story with you, but I was in a very dark place. I was trying to get back on my feet. When I was living in China and Hong Kong, I went to China as a football coach, but then started to do business didn't go well. I literally ran out of money. When I was in Hong Kong in 2019, and one of the most expensive places in the world, if it wasn't for the divine kindness of one of my best friends that I met there, that allowed me to crash at this place for over a year, I would have been on the street. I was living on $20 a week. Nobody knew that except him and my older sister. But something magical happened at the time is that, if you had met me back then in Hong Kong, you would have never guessed that, because I was hosting events. I was, coaching people. I was the guy with a 3-piece suit. See my profile picture? That was me, with no money in my pocket. But yet I knew that I can bounce back. I had no idea but then the podcast was the way. And then long story short, podcasting not only, so because I had run out of money, my credit cards were destroyed. My credit was destroyed. When the pandemic was started, I had to ask my sister to buy me a ticket to come back home. I will never forget that day, Tuesday, February 25, 2020, right at the start of the pandemic. When I landed in Toronto, I had $200 US to my name as a 39-year-old guy. Yet I knew I would bounce back. And within 2.5, 3 years, it would completely change my life. I would, I'm in the best financial shape I've ever been. My credit's the highest ever. I get now those black premium credit cards now with all the perks. Completely changed my life. But again, it's something that fell on my lap because, the traditional way to monetize a podcast YouTube channel is by, investing a ton of time to build an audience. So, and then once you get, say, after 5 to 10 years, you get a couple of million followers. That's when you make your money through sponsorships and downloads and all that. But when I started, I didn't have money. I was actually not even at zero, but at negative. Thank God I didn't have any debt, but still, So that was really completely changed my life. Completely. The reason I'm here today in Malaysia living the life I'm living is for thanks to 3 things: God, my family, and then the podcast. So podcasting, if done properly, because what is business? As I said in the beginning, what is business? It's not a numbers game. It's a relationship nurturing process. The moment I understood that, by having conversations, getting to know the person, not right away try to spam or pitch or try to make a sale. No. For me, the 2 greatest benefits of business, number 1, is the transformation and the impact I achieve in the lives of people I work with. And number 2, the beautiful friendships and relationships I build in the process. The money is icing on the cake. It's not the cake. Before my awakening, it was all about money, money, money. But now, when I put helping, serving others, and doing good, I swear to you, money magically manifests itself in my life. I'm not a good salesperson. When I talk with people, I don't sell. I don't follow a script. I just share my story. I speak, and this is one of the number 1 thing I teach my students in my academy. Never speak from a script. Don't even speak from your mouth. Speak from here. That's when the magic happens. That's when the connections happen. And when there's connection, there's no need to pitch, seduce, or as I like to say, in a funny way, seduce or kidnap someone to do business with. It's a natural, automatic, organic progression. Let's say we talk. Hey, what do? I do X for Y. Hey, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Can you help me? Sure. Let's have a time to talk. That's my so-called my way to do business. I don't have a script to walk you through. I don't do discovery call or sales calls because I suck at those, because that's unnatural for me. I don't like to put pressure to pressure sell someone, because I hate when people do it to me. I don't like to do it to others. So this is why all of that, and even podcasting, gave birth to this. This is my first book, which was launched at the end of September of last year. This is a collection of some of the most inspiring, goosebump-inducing stories of the first 2 years and 200 episodes of my podcast. See at the back, there's a list of people. These are people that have appeared on my podcast. Episode number 1, Dr. Iris Perkins. Dr. 2, Dr. Jamil Say, and so on and so forth. This book is not for anyone that can just, want it to be or paid. No. These are for people from my podcast. And again, this is another income stream that the podcast blessed me with. The people in the book, they paid to be in the book. Each contributed chapter. Yes. Podcasting opened my eyes. One of them is, we all want to have a book, but writing a book is daunting. The fastest, easiest, most effective way to launch your first or next book is through a podcast. And here's why. A 200-page book is about 60,000 words. One 30-minute podcast episode is 6,000 words. So as long as you release one 30-minute podcast a week within 3 months, it's a mathematical certainty you have enough content to publish a book. Let's say you keep that rhythm, 1 podcast a week, give it another month to package it, promote, and all that. So every 4 months, you can be releasing a new book for your business. The lowest hanging fruit is just transcribe the podcast. Or a better way is, let's say if after you've spoken with 20, 30 guest on your podcast, you can write a book on lessons learned after speaking with 20 experts on such and such topic, on the number one mistake not to make, and so on and so forth. Another one, you can write a book on specific themes, leadership, taking a leap of faith, going to hell and coming back, bouncing back, which is what happened to me, my story. So many other things. Another way, of course, is you invite the people that were on your podcast to get a much bigger exposure, to have a piece of legacy, because a book is a legacy. Another thing is, a book, nothing screams expertise like a book. Imagine next time you meet someone, say, Raewyn, was awesome talking. You can have your business card. Just smile. Say, I don't have a business card, but here's my book. Mind blown, without you saying a single word that's going to elevate you in their mind to being seen as an expert, authority, and leader. You know, we all get tons of business cards. They all end up in the bin, but nobody throws a book. A book might stay on your desk for a few months, but one day at the right time, you pick it up. Oh, who's that? Oh, I remember this person. Let me reach out to them. So this is why a book can be tremendously transformational, not only for you, but also for your business. Imagine you release one book every 4 months. That's going to completely eliminate competition from your reality, because it doesn't exist. I can bet you, as we say in French, $20 and 5 donuts, that none of your competition are doing that. You know, there's a saying in real estate, and it's global, you've heard as well, which is location, location, location. And business, after living abroad and doing business for the past 20 years around the world, I noticed something similar, and I call it the rule of the 3 Ds. Differentiation, 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 meaning what me and you and every business owner, that's a question we must ask ourselves every day. What do I need to do today and every day to set myself apart, to distinguish myself, to elevate myself from being seen just another, whatever I am, teacher, school owner, podcaster, book, accountant, even if you're selling hot dogs and ice cream down the street, to being seen as the expert, the authority, the leader. For me, from my experience, 3 ways. Have a podcast, meaning have your own platform. Number 2, have a book that opens the world for you. And number 3, be a business bigger than yourself, bigger than money. Make it about impact, about cause, about purpose. Once you have those 3 things, then it's game over. Competition becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
So
actually, it's a very good point saying that about competition. You know, sometimes with our staff, you know, I hear them say, oh, you know, this other school's doing this and all that. And I said, you know what you do with that? You just say all the best. My 3 favorite words, all the best, because we are not them. And we have our own journey. And kind of, you know, fundamentally we do something similar, but we will do it in a whole different way. You know, let them do it their way. If that works for them, that's great. But we have our way and we will do it our way. Never, ever, ever mimic your competition, because 90% of the time they're never going to tell you the truth anyway. You know, so how do we know for sure that what they're saying or what they're trying to project is actually true? So I just say the only thing we do know that's true and real is what we're doing. So don't worry about that. Just, you know, put your head down, keep going, and you know, let us be our own unique trailblazer. You know,
absolutely. So yeah, so again, I've been completely blessed that this opened the world. This gave me a second lease of life, because if it wasn't for the podcast, I would have been stuck at home having to find a job. You know,
the old job.
Yes, just over broke. You know, especially with the cost of living in Canada. Good luck with that. You know,
but you know, obviously the thing with you, Payman, and with anybody who's got an entrepreneurial spirit is you can see an opportunity. You know, many people can't see that. They're too scared. You know, I mean, one of the great things about going to hell and back is that you've survived it. And when you survive it, you know, okay, I don't want to go there again, but I did survive that. So I'm not afraid.
You know, I mentioned exactly, great point. You know, I mentioned earlier the power, tremendous power of question, asking the right question. Before my awakening, when something bad happened to me, I asked the wrong question, which was, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Why? Where is God? Why? This is not fair. Why? And can complain like a little bitch. Sorry for my language, but this is what. And instead, now I'm asking a much more empowering question, which is, no matter what happens to me, whether it was through my father passing away, me going through, and him going through his disease and all that, or even me being completely broke, $20 to my name per week in Hong Kong, one of the most expensive place in the world. Back then I didn't know it, but now when I look at it, I ask myself, what was that trying to teach me? What was the lesson for me to learn to that? And when I look at that time, I had no money, yet that was some of my happiest moments of my life. And what that teach me was that I don't need money to be happy, because I lived it for over a year. And when you realize that, when someone tells you, I'm not going to do business with you, I'm going to fire you. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to call the cops on you. Okay, here's my phone. You know, when you get to that level, you become very dangerous, because nobody can control you, manipulate you, threaten you.
That's right. Yeah.
You get the sense of not cockiness or arrogance, but the sense of self-assuredness that nothing can touch you. When you reach that level, you become almost unstoppable.
Exactly.
You've been to hell, and you know, hey, hell is not that bad, actually. It doesn't kill you physically.
Yeah. But one thing I know, I mean, you have that skill. I think I have that, but I have met people who just can't recover, you know, and
they can, but they don't want to.
Yeah, they don't want to. Yeah. I mean, I just know of not that many, but a handful of people who have had some pretty rough times in their life. And it's like every time that tough spot happened, they got beaten down, but then they came back a little bit. And then next time it happened, it came back just a little bit. And then finally they just gave up. But yeah, I mean, the way their perception of the world is very different. And I do think people like you and I, we have to have a kind of single-minded element to what we do, even though we are about including others and wanting to be with others. We have to be really discerning about who we mix with, who we want to share ideas with. And because, like you say, something falls into your lap, you don't know, am I seeing this in this way? Is this really going to be something or not? You don't know. And
it falls on your lap, but then you have to have the courage to take action on it.
Right. And the last thing you want is people around you saying, be careful, Payman, be very careful, you know, or somebody else has already done that. Or who do you think you are? Think you're somebody, you know, no, you got to get these people out of your life immediately, and only hang around people who are going to really support you, listen to you, you know, push you on, because there will be ups and downs, you know, it's not smooth sailing. Yeah.
You know, my life could have been so much simpler had I decided to proceed with my application to law school back in 2008. I would have been set by now, completely, no financial worries at all. But yet I decided to go down the entrepreneurship path. It's been feast or famine sometimes. Sometimes you make $2,000-3,000 a day. Sometimes you have $20 for a week to your name.
Yeah.
But I would not change it.
No. Because this is our path.
Yeah.
This is our path.
Yeah.
And who would have thought? You know, I mean, I think that I feel more alive on a daily basis today than I did 30 years ago.
You know, you mentioned that when you're in New Zealand, you don't feel, you know, I feel the same. When I'm in Canada, I feel no motivation, no drive, lazy. Sure, the weather has to do with it, because after years completely, I mean, you've lived in Toronto, you know how it is, especially in winter, you know, minus 30 and all that. You you can't even be paid to get out. So I don't feel, but when I'm outside here, I mean, I used to live in Brazil, I used to be in Hong Kong and China and other places. I feel alive. You know, the first time I went to Brazil, I did something that left everybody incredulous. It was that as soon as I got off the plane, I actually kneeled down and kissed the ground. Yeah. It was completely natural. I was just compelled to do it.
Yeah.
I felt so much, I felt more at home in Brazil than anywhere else in the world. And then after, you remember that episode I sent you of that hypnotherapist? I had a few past lives in Brazil. So now I understand why, because I felt coming back home.
Yeah.
But back then I didn't know it. So I feel alive. I feel, you know, I can't say it in other words. I feel alive here or anywhere else. The weather affects me big time. I'm a tropical flower, you know.
Yeah, I think I mean, New Zealand, the weather's not that great, but it's not as bad as Toronto.
Oh, no.
It's just New Zealand is very windy. And I come from Wellington, which is the windy city, and it's just very, very windy. But I would say one of the reasons why I feel more alive now is because, like, coming back to one of the very first questions you asked me, what makes you feel alive, is I've had quite a number of challenges, particularly in the last 5 years. Conquered them all. And that, when your back's up against the wall like yourself, when you're on $20 a month,
a week,
and your back's
Hong
up
Kong.
against, and your mind, boy, that wakes you up. You got to do something. And I think for me, that's what happened to me. I have that on a daily basis. I have days full of joy. I have days full of misery. I have days where I come home and I think, well, that was very unexpected, And prior to this life I'm living now, I would say, like in New Zealand,
wow, fascinating.
So in New Zealand for me, it was very, very set, like you go to university, then you meet somebody, and then you get married, and then you buy a house, and then you have children, and then it was all very kind of prescribed. And I never felt overly comfortable with that. Like I say, when I left the country, I started to feel alive, but I have to say I never felt quite so alive until I opened the school. That really pushed me right up against the wall. Yeah. But,
absolutely. Fascinating conversation, Raewyn. We can talk for hours and hours. It's been over 2.5 hours we've been talking. Let's start to wrap this up. To finish, I'd like to ask you a series of rapid fire questions on advices. Ready?
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received so far?
Be yourself.
Beautiful. What's the worst piece of advice you've received?
Don't be yourself. The worst piece of advice would be try and fit in with everyone else.
Indeed. Imagine you were blessed with a time machine. You can go back in time and sit face to face with the 18-year-old Raewyn. What's the number one piece of advice you'd give to her, knowing all that you know now?
I would say you're on track. Don't think that what you are doing or thinking or who you are is not good enough. You are good enough, and incredible things are going to happen to you in your life that you can never, ever imagine. So get yourself ready, and all because you are being you and you're being on track.
Beautiful. Do you have your own podcast yet?
I did actually. Yes, I did have a podcast for our school. We used to have our teachers on. Yeah, it did quite well.
What was it called?
It was called Beyond the Textbook. It was about mainly about my guests were our teachers, a different teacher every time, and they would talk about some aspect of learning English and some advice they would have. Yeah. And then COVID happened, and I haven't kind of got back into it again. I've had some people contact me saying, oh, you should continue doing that. And
absolutely.
Yeah. I'd like to do that. I've got so many things right now.
Yeah. If you want, I can come to your school next week and give you some tips as a friend to how to really relaunch it in a way, but also in a way to really use it to grow your business, to attract new clients.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd welcome you very much. Love you to see our place and what we do.
We'll do that next week. We'll schedule that. So speaking of that, imagine that you have your own podcast today, and today you're interviewing the most special person in the world, and that is yourself. what is the first question that you want to ask yourself? Don't think too much. The first thing that comes to your mind.
Why are you doing what you're doing?
And what's your answer?
Because it's something I have to do. It's part of who I am.
Beautiful. The last question I'm going to ask you, and that's my favorite question to ask my guests, and that is, what is the smallest thing? And by small, I don't mean something small. I mean the one thing you've done that has had the greatest, deepest, most profound positive effect on both your life and business. For example, for me, it's been starting my podcast. What about you?
Well, I think obviously the school,
Mhm.
but that wasn't a small thing.
No, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Quite a lot.
The one thing.
Quite a big
the one, yeah.
Yeah, one thing, yeah. Yeah, that completely transformed my life. And people say, oh, you know, don't you want to sell the school and sort of, you know, I said, no, because this is my family, this is my life. I'm okay to take a back seat, let someone else take over more, but I will always be a part of it. Yeah.
It's fun. You're enjoying it.
Yeah. It's always something new.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
pluses and minuses about being the boss, you know.
Totally.
The minus is that the buck stops with you and you have to deal with everything. The plus is you really have the power to transform people's lives, you know, whether they are students or staff or, you know, you
Yes,
have the
totally.
power to do something that's
Totally.
going to change lives. Yeah.
Totally. If someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
I have to say I'm not overly active on Facebook.
Mm.
I'm not overly active on social media generally, but I do have a blog.
Oh,
Yeah, I have a blog which is called it started off actually as about ESL, English language teaching, but it's kind of in recent years, particularly since COVID, it's transformed more into how we learn, how we shift, how we change in life. So it's called The Future of Learning. And it's under my Muslim name, Aiyshah Elite. I can send you a link. Perhaps you can put it in the podcast.
absolutely.
So I post something about every 2 or 3 days. So I have all kinds of topics in there that are current, that are on people's minds right now. Sometimes they're good old-fashioned motivational stuff, you know. So yeah. But I obviously have an email address. I can put that in there as
You
well.
can mention it, and then after you can send it to me afterwards. I'll put all your links on the show notes.
Yeah. Most of my social media is related to the school.
Okay.
So
I'll share those.
yeah.
All right, sounds good. Listen, Raewyn, absolute honor, pleasure, delight talking to you. The last 2.5 hours just flew by. I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with your presence, your impact, your vision, your mission, your dancing skills, and everything. Sense of
I'm never
humor.
gonna live this down.
Yeah, everything you do. Stay safe, stay
Yeah.
awesome. God bless you. We're definitely going to be not only talking more, but looking forward to seeing you soon next week at your school. As we say back home in Canada, have a fantabulous evening and talk to you very soon. Take care.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers.